The church was cold, but not as cold as the look in my sister's eyes. I thought we were there to mourn our father, to celebrate the man who built an empire from nothing. I was wrong. As I sat in the front pew, my hands trembling, trying to hold myself together, my husband slipped his phone into my hand under the cover of the hymnal. A single text glowed on the screen. "Chloe's recording you. Don't react." In that instant, the grief in my heart turned to ice. This wasn't a memorial. It was an ambush, and my own sister had set the trap. The scent of lilies and old wood filled the air, a smell I usually found comforting. But today, it felt suffocating. My father, Richard, was gone. The man who had taught me how to read a blueprint and how to stand my ground was just a photograph on the altar now, smiling his stoic, self-made man smile. I sat in the front pew, my husband Alex's hand a warm pressure on my back. Across the aisle, my sister Chloe dabbed at her eyes with a silk handkerchief. She looked the part of the grieving daughter perfectly. A little too perfectly. Throughout our lives, Chloe had always been the star, the outgoing realtor who could charm anyone while I was the quiet one, the architect happy to stay behind the scenes, letting my work speak for itself. Dad understood me. He admired my quiet resolve. But Chloe, she craved the spotlight. She'd make little comments at family dinners like, "To Jenna, Dad's favorite little project manager," with a smile that was half poison. I'd always brushed it off. Sibling rivalry, I'd told myself. But then came the text from Alex. "Chloe's recording you. Don't react." I froze. My blood ran cold. I risked a glance. Chloe's phone was propped up ever so slightly in her lap, the lens angled right at me. She was waiting for me to break down, for the tears to flow, for a single moment of weakness she could capture and use. For what? My mind raced. The inheritance? Our father's business? This was a depth of family betrayal I couldn't have imagined. My training as an architect kicked in assess, analyze, act. I subtly shifted my gaze to Alex. He gave a nearly imperceptible nod toward the back of the church. He had anticipated this. Before the service, he'd voiced his concerns. "Chloe's been acting strange about the estate," he'd said. "Let me put a few safeguards in place." I'd thought he was being paranoid. Now I thanked God for his foresight. He had hired 2 discreet security professionals, men who blended in perfectly as solemn-faced funeral home staff. I caught the eye of one of them and whispered the code word we'd agreed on, a word that was a tribute to my father. Mustang. It was the model of his favorite car, the one he'd restored with his own hands. The man nodded, and the quiet operation began. One by one, he and his colleague moved through the pews, politely asking guests to turn off their phones as a matter of chapel policy. When he reached Chloe, her face tightened. She tried to refuse, but his polite insistence was unbreakable. Her phone, along with her plan, was neutralized. The organ played on, but for me, the war had just begun. This was one of those true stories you think could never happen to you, until it does. The days after the funeral were a blur of condolences and legal paperwork. The will reading was exactly as I'd expected. Dad left the bulk of his company and the family home to me, not because he loved me more, but because, as he wrote in a letter to us both, I had the steady hand to manage his legacy. Chloe received a very generous trust fund, more than enough to live comfortably for the rest of her life. She smiled through the reading, but I saw the flicker of rage in her eyes. It was the same look she'd had at the funeral. Alex, my rock, immediately went to work. "This isn't just about jealousy, Jenna," he said that night in his home office, his face illuminated by lines of code. "An amateur tries to record you on an iPhone. A professional tries to ruin you. This feels professional." As a cybersecurity expert, Alex could see patterns where I just saw chaos. He started digging into Chloe's finances, her emails, her recent contacts. It was a grim invasion of privacy, but we both knew this was self-defense. What he found chilled me to the bone. Chloe had been in close contact with a man named Greg, a financial consultant. My heart dropped. I knew Greg. Years ago, he was a partner on a major city development project my firm was leading. I caught him falsifying invoices and cutting corners on safety protocols. I had him removed from the project and made sure his reputation reflected his actions. He'd sworn he'd make me pay. I hadn't realized he would enlist my own sister to do it. The financial records showed it all. A series of payments from Chloe to a consulting firm owned by Greg. The memo line read, "Reputation management." This was no longer just a family squabble. It was a coordinated attack. This whole ordeal was becoming a difficult story of overcoming adversity. They were planning to use the funeral video to support a legal challenge, Alex concluded, pointing to an email chain. They would have argued you were emotionally unstable, incapable of running Dad's company. I felt sick. They wanted to strip me of everything my father had worked for, everything he had trusted me to protect. The realization was horrifying. I was living in one of those best revenge stories, only I was the target, and I had no idea how to fight back against my own blood. Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. It happened on a Tuesday morning. My phone started buzzing relentlessly. Texts from friends, colleagues, even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. They all contained the same link to a video that was spreading like wildfire. My hands shook as I clicked on it. The video was short, only 30 seconds, and expertly edited. It opened with a shot of me in my father's garage a few months ago, looking at his prized 1967 Ford Mustang, the car he loved more than anything. The lighting was dim, my face unreadable. Then, it cut to a clip of me on the phone, a snippet from a business call where I was discussing selling off old assets. But they had spliced it, twisted it. Then came the audio, a deepfake of my voice, so convincing it made me shudder. "It's just a chunk of metal," the fake me said coldly. "The emotional attachment is irrelevant. I'll get a good price for it. It's time to cash out." The video ended with a picture of my grieving sister, Chloe, with a single line of text. "Some people care about legacy. Others only care about money." The hashtags were brutal. Number heartless daughter, number cash over class, number daddy's betrayal. By the time I finished watching, it had over 100,000 views. The comments were a war zone. Strangers called me a monster. Business acquaintances posted veiled messages about integrity. The story was picked up by local gossip blogs. It was a masterpiece of character assassination. They had taken my father's most cherished possession and used it as a weapon against me. This wasn't just a lie, it was a desecration. I collapsed into a chair, the room spinning. Alex rushed in, his face grim. He'd already seen it. "They did it, Jenna. They manufactured their evidence," he said, his voice tight with anger. This was their real plan. The funeral was just plan A. This was plan B, a public execution of my character. This was the moment I realized I was at the center of a malicious revenge story, and they had fired the first shot in a way that had maximum impact. The pain was indescribable, not just for my reputation, but for the stain they had put on my father's memory. My first instinct was to scream, to post a frantic, defensive video of my own, to call every person I knew and plead my case, to text Chloe and unleash a torrent of rage. But Alex stopped me. He grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. "No, Jenna. That's exactly what they want. They want you to look unhinged. They've set a trap, and if you react with emotion, you spring it." He was right. I took a deep breath, then another. The anger was still there, a white-hot fire in my chest, but I packed it down, compressing it into fuel. This was a battle that wouldn't be won with shouting. It would be won with facts. This was one of the most important life lessons my father ever taught me. Don't argue with fools. Just build a better case. For the next 2 weeks, our home became a war room. We would not be creating another messy family revenge story. We would be building an airtight case. While I kept up a calm, professional front, Alex worked his magic. He retrieved the original, unedited video of me in the garage from our home security cloud. It showed me lovingly dusting the car, my expression melancholic. He found the full audio of the business call they had chopped up, proving I was talking about selling outdated office equipment. The context was everything. The final piece was the most damning. We hired a forensic audio analyst, a quiet man with sharp eyes. After 2 days, he came back with a detailed report. He could pinpoint the exact moments the audio was spliced. He identified the AI software used to generate the fake parts of my sentences. He even found digital fingerprints in the file that pointed back to an IP address associated with one of Greg's shell corporations. We had them. We had the receipts. We had the metadata. We had the truth, organized in a neat, undeniable digital folder. I looked at the file, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of power return. They wanted to play dirty. Fine, I was about to clean house. The perfect stage for our counterattack presented itself. The annual fundraising dinner for the Richard Hale Foundation, my father's charity for young entrepreneurs. It was the biggest social event of the year for our community. Everyone would be there: family, friends, business leaders, and of course, Chloe and Greg, who would undoubtedly be basking in their perceived victory. Chloe was on the board. She'd be expecting to give a speech about carrying on our father's legacy. She was about to get the surprise of her life. I walked into the ballroom, my head held high, Alex by my side. I could feel the whispers, see the sideways glances. I ignored them. When it was time for the board remarks, Chloe glided to the podium, a sad smile on her face. But before she could speak, I stepped forward. "If I may," I said, my voice calm and clear, ringing through the silent room. "I have a short presentation about my father's legacy and the importance of truth." Chloe froze. A giant screen behind the stage, which was supposed to be showing a slideshow of Dad, flickered to life with a file from my laptop. First, I played the viral video in its entirety. A murmur went through the crowd. Then, side by side, I played our security footage of me in the garage next to the original clip, showing how they'd manipulated it. I played the full audio of my business call. The room grew deathly quiet. The final slide was a screen grab of the audio analyst's report, highlighting the words, "audio spliced," and "AI-generated forgery." Beneath it, I displayed the bank transaction, a payment of $50,000 from Chloe's account to Greg's company, dated 2 days before the video was released. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. The evidence spoke for itself. I looked directly at Chloe. Her face was ashen. The charming mask had shattered, revealing the ugly truth beneath. Greg was already trying to slip out the back door, but 2 of Alex's security guys quietly blocked his path. This wasn't just a takedown, it was a public dissection. It was one of the best revenge stories imaginable, because the weapon wasn't anger, it was cold, hard, undeniable proof. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Not loud shouting, but a thick, horrified buzz. People weren't looking at me with pity anymore. They were looking at Chloe with disgust. Her social circle, the one she had cultivated so carefully, was dissolving before her very eyes. She stumbled away from the podium and fled the room, not with righteous anger, but with the hunched shoulders of the utterly defeated. The next day, my phone rang. It was Maria, our mutual friend, the nail tech who knew everyone's business. Her voice was hesitant. "Jenna, I saw Chloe. She came to my salon. She was a wreck." I stayed silent, letting her talk. "She told me everything," Maria continued, her voice soft. "She said it wasn't just about the money. She said every time your dad praised you for being steady or smart, she felt like he was calling her frivolous and weak. She was so jealous, Jenna. It ate her alive. When Greg approached her, he preyed on that insecurity. He told her they could level the playing field. Hearing it laid out like that didn't bring me satisfaction. It just left a hollow feeling in my chest. The victory felt empty. I had won. I had exposed her. But the cost was my family. The sister I had grown up with, the one I'd built sandcastles with, was gone, replaced by this stranger consumed by bitterness. This victory was a core part of my inspirational story of survival, but it was also a tragedy. We proceeded with the legal action, of course. We had to. We filed a lawsuit for defamation and libel. Greg's career was over. Chloe's real estate license was suspended pending investigation. The truth was out there, but the damage felt permanent in a way I hadn't expected. This wasn't a clean, happy ending. True stories rarely are. There was just the quiet, lonely aftermath of a war I never wanted to fight, and the chilling knowledge that I had completely destroyed my own sister. But then again, she had tried to destroy me first. The legal battle was swift and decisive. With the evidence we had, Chloe and Greg had no choice but to settle. They issued a public retraction, admitting to fabricating the video and the narrative. The court awarded me significant damages, which I immediately donated in full to my father's foundation. It was never about the money, it was about the truth. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding. My business, once shaken, came back stronger than ever as clients rallied around me, respecting the quiet dignity with which I handled the crisis. I took over my father's company, not with a sense of triumph, but with a profound sense of duty. I worked hard to honor his legacy, to be the steady hand he always knew I was. This final chapter wasn't about revenge, it was about recovery. It was about proving that my story was one of overcoming adversity with integrity. I never spoke to Chloe again. Maria told me she sold her house and moved to a different state, trying to escape the shame. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if she ever feels remorse, or if she just regrets getting caught. I've come to accept that I may never know, and that has to be okay. Forgiveness feels like a mountain I'm not yet ready to climb. Maybe I never will be. My peace comes not from a place of forgetting, but of acceptance. I accept that my family is broken. I accept that my sister tried to ruin me, and I accept that I was strong enough to survive it. My revenge story didn't end with a fiery confrontation, but with a quiet return to the life I had built, a life now forged in a fire I never asked for. Alex and I are closer than ever. We learned that we can withstand any storm together. I often visit my father's grave, and I tell him about everything. And in the quiet of the cemetery, I feel his approval, not for the battle, but for the way I won it. With truth, with honor, and with a strength he always saw in me. In the end, this whole ordeal taught me that the best revenge isn't loud and explosive. It's quiet, meticulous, and undeniable. It's the slow, steady work of rebuilding your life on a foundation of truth, proving your detractors wrong simply by continuing to thrive. My story became an inspirational story for myself, a reminder that my worth isn't determined by the lies others tell about me, but by the integrity I choose to live with every day. It's a hard-won piece, but it's mine. Now I want to ask you, the person listening to this, have you ever experienced a family betrayal that cut this deep? What would you have done in my shoes? Am I wrong for deciding that forgiveness isn't on the table, at least not for now? Share your own true stories and thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading them. And if this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel for more stories about overcoming adversity and finding strength in the most difficult of times.